Thursdays are review days here on the channel, and I don't want to make any exception today, so we're gonna jump right in and watch and review one of your underwater films. Coming up. Hey there underwater filmmakers, what's going on? It's great to see all you smiling faces again for yet another episode of reviewing your underwater films. Now as you can see, I am all alone today in the studio. Sebastian unfortunately couldn't make it for today's review session, and trust me, it's not that I didn't invite him to come and join me today. He was simply busy and occupied with other things. But nevertheless, I'm really looking forward to reviewing today's submission, which was made by Robert Coelen. Robert has submitted his video back in September, October last year and was in the line to get reviewed at the time that his video was going to be in line. But he then decided recently to join our YouTube membership plan, the underwater filmmaker, which in turn made his video being prioritized, his submission being prioritized and being reviewed today. If you are in the line for a video review, or if you want to submit one and you want to get your video reviewed right away, like Robert's video is being reviewed today, then you can do that as well by joining the YouTube membership plan, the Underwater Filmmaker, which is going to give you that prioritization on your video submission alongside of many other benefits that you're getting with such a subscription. So if you want to support the channel that way, that's greatly appreciated, and you can do that by clicking the button just below the video here which says become a member, and that's going to take you to the member and sign up area. So having said that, let's have a look at what Robert has submitted for us, and let's first of all have a look at what camera and other equipment he's used to film the submission that we are looking at today. Now the film that we're going to be looking at is called Nudie Branches of Parangbai. Parangbai is on Bali in Indonesia and is a very nice pretty area to dive in. He's used a Sony RX100 Mark V to capture those shots in a fantasy housing. He's also used a 10x macro wet lens and 2 light and motion video lights. Also for added stability, Robert used a Gorilla Pod, and for the aerial shots that we'll be seeing, he used a DJI Mavic Air drone. So that's all the info that I've got. Now let's dive right into Robert's video and watch and review this together.
A small outrigger canoe is an excellent diving platform from which to explore the nudie banks in Bali. Palangbai, a small village on this island in Indonesia, hosts a ferry terminal and local fishermen along with good diving operators. On a recent dive, I encountered this Coryphelina unnamed species, carrying what looks to be an isopod on its back. Yes, that tiny white animal nestled amongst the serrata, those waving little arms of the nudibranch. From the same genus, this 3 cm long Coryphelina exoptata nudibranch makes its way looking for its favorite food, hydroids of the genus Eudendrium. Its bright orange rhinophore with which it smells the world stands out clear. A different genus altogether is represented by this unnamed Tambia species. They feed on bryozoans, small filter feeders commonly called moss animals. Notice how its slime layer draws little grains of sand as the wave motion of the water pushes the animal from side to side. Finally, on this dive, I encountered Terralidia sempri. This handy critter houses symbiotic zoos and tele in the serrata, giving it both color and the ability to photosynthesize. That's however not its only food source. It also preys on several species of hydroids. The stinging cells from these hydroids end up as part of the defense in the surface of the serrata and can just be felt if they discharge on touching the animal. In any case, diving is about seeing, not touching.
Alright, Robert, thank you so much for submitting this film and letting me review it within the series here. Now, I have to say that I really enjoyed watching this film. It was fairly short with only 3 minutes, which I consider to be the perfect length for such a piece of content. And the things that I really enjoyed were the narration, the extra information that you've put into the whole piece, giving us a little bit of background information about the different types of nudibranches, their environment. So that was actually really, really nice. I also enjoyed the intro, which was giving us a little bit of an overview of the area of Paraguay. The drone shots were nice, giving us an idea of what the area looks like that you were doing these dives and capturing that footage. Now, regarding the drone shots, I have one thing that I would have not done, which is the zooming part that was made in one of the drone shots where you were zooming into or onto the beach. And this is one thing that I've mentioned many times here on the channel, that I'm not a big fan of the zooming effect in a video itself. So I would much rather just keep the same focal length and the same field of view within a shot and not zoom into a shot as you were doing there. This is a personal taste and a personal opinion here, but I don't think that it really makes a very, it doesn't really look very nice if you do these zooming effects within the same clip. What else can I say? There's a couple of things that I would like to pass on to you that I think that you can improve on, and that will make your video even better in the future. First of all, I do think that the focus was not always at the appropriate spot inside your framing. And that has also to do with, I think, the composition of your images. Sometimes it looked like the composition, like the nudibranch wasn't really positioned in the right part of your frame. And the focus, I'm guessing you were working with autofocus, wasn't really on the head of the nudibranch, but sometimes it was on the gills of the nudibranch, the middle part. And that can be sometimes a little confusing. And in one or two shots, we even saw the focus shifting from like the gills to the head and the other way around. To avoid that, if you can, I would try to use, with macro shots in general, I would try to use manual focus. So you are in charge of where the focus should be on your image. And I know that this can be challenging. Sometimes it's really hard to see on the small screen of the camera. Something that can help here is using an external monitor. I'm not entirely sure if that works with the RX 100. I would assume it does. But of course, this also means an extra investment in an external monitor and a housing for a monitor to be able to do that. But this is definitely something that will help you make sure that you have the focus at the right place. Another thing that I noticed was that especially the last nudibranch that you were showing us in the film, you were showing a lot of very similar shots, framing-wise similar shots. They were all showing the nudibranch in kind of it wasn't like a close-up, but it was like a mid-shot, so the whole nudibranch was in the frame. and you were showing us that nudie branch. I think there was, I don't know, half a dozen cuts or something, and it was pretty much always the same framing. Maybe Robert tried to mix it up a little bit with different field of views. Try to either bring your camera up a little bit so you can shoot down onto the nudie branch, giving us a different perspective. Try to go even lower down so we can really see the nudie branch sort of on eye level. Maybe try to go around, show it once from this side, show it from the other side, so that we get a bit of a variation of different angles and different perspectives of that same nudie branch. Also try, and this is something that I can't really judge by just seeing your video, also try to give us different focal length. So try to give us a closer shot of the nudie branch and maybe a shot that is a bit further away, so that we see in one shot we can see more the details of the nudie branch, and in another shot we can see more of the environment where the nudie branch is living in and moving around in. So by doing this, using a variety of different shots, different perspectives, different shot types, macro, close up, mid shot, it's just gonna make the whole experience of seeing that nudie branch a little more varied and a little more interesting to the viewer. What I really liked, though, I have to say, was the lighting. I think that you lit all of the of your shots very evenly and nicely, and I think that that's just because you were using those two light and motion underwater video lights, which were giving you a nice and even lighting on your object. You could, if you want, try to experiment a little bit with your lighting in the future and maybe use one light or have one light shine a little more intense onto your object than the other one. So dial one a little down, have the other one a little higher on a higher setting, so that you can create some more atmospheric feel to the scene. Like for example, if you have the left light shining stronger than the right light, you're gonna create some shadows on the right hand side of your image, because the left side is just gonna be stronger, that light, creating some shadows on the other side, which just makes for a more natural looking image rather than having the whole nudie branch completely lit up evenly, right? There's nothing wrong with lighting up that nudie branch evenly and nicely. It's a good thing because you're going to be seeing all the details and everything of that nudie branch. But if you want to add some extra atmosphere and some extra texture into your shot, it might be a good idea to try to experiment a little bit with trying to position your light slightly different. Use one light at a higher level than the other one, and see what that actually does to the images that you're getting from just changing the angles of the lights and the intensity of the lights individually. Now, it's just a little extra tip there, but don't get me wrong, I did enjoy the lighting, and from a technical perspective, it was all good and nice and correctly executed. There was no backscatter or anything visible, so that all worked very, very nicely. Let's see if I've got anything else. I've got one more thing about the narration that I've noted here. I mentioned before that I really enjoyed the narration. I think it is a great way of giving extra information and telling the audience a little bit more about the subject that they're looking at. I don't know how you've recorded that narration, but to me it sounded, and it might also have to do with the speakers on my MacBook Pro, not entirely sure, but it sounded to me a little bit like there was a bit of a hollow tone to the narration, and that can happen depending on how you record that narration, whether you're doing it just with, I don't know, a phone or with a proper studio microphone. There's different ways how you can do this. You can obviously also just record it on the computer itself, and depending on the atmosphere, like the room that you're recording it in, it can also be a reason for sound quality that is not optimal. A good way of making sure that you get the best possible audio is to use a special podcast or speaker's microphone that you connect to either your computer or a voice recorder. And then try to record your voiceover somewhere in a room where you have plenty of furniture and plenty of stuff that will actually absorb the sound a little bit. Don't try to capture your audio in a fairly clean and empty room, because you're gonna get a lot of distortions of your own voice coming off the walls and making the audio recording not quite as good. A good tip, if you don't have a room with a lot of furniture in there, like carpets, chairs, couches that will actually swallow a lot of the bouncing of your voice, what you can also do is just use a thick blanket and just put that over your head as you're recording your voiceover. Obviously keep the microphone under the blanket and just put the blanket over your head, cover yourself with that, and that should also help to avoid any bouncing of your voice off the walls or other objects that are not swallowing the sound as well. So that's just a little side tip there for you, Robert, if you want to do another narration recording for your next video project. So that's pretty much all I've got to say about your submission there, Robert. Again, thank you very much for submitting it. I really enjoyed watching it, and I think you have created a really nice little piece of underwater imagery here. As always, I will put a link to Robert's video as well as his YouTube channel down in the video description below, so you guys can go over there and check out the rest of Robert's content. Leave a like, leave a subscription, leave a comment on his video, and let him know where you're coming from. Hopefully, Robert, this review was useful to you and you got some insights and some tips on how you can improve your underwater videography in the future. And I also hope that it was the same for everyone else and everyone was able to take something from this video today. Now, if you out there have a video you want us to review within this series as well, feel free to send me an email with the link to the uploaded video to contact@matthiaslebo.com, and I'll be happy to review that video as quickly as I can. Right now we still have about 6-7 month of wait time, so your video will just get in line and will be reviewed as soon as we get to it. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you do want to skip that line and have your video reviewed right away, there is the way of signing up for the YouTube membership plan Underwater Filmmaker, which will then prioritize your video and it will be reviewed and published here on the channel pretty much right away. Alright, that's it all for today. Thank you very much for your time and for watching, guys. As always, keep capturing your underwater adventures, and I will see you, hopefully, with Sebastian by my side again next week when it's time again for another reviewing your underwater films. Take care, and we'll see you next week.